Hey Switchheads, how's it going? Kanan here, hope you're all well and welcome to my review of Off and On Again. And before we jump into the review, why not hit that like and subscribe button, become a member of the Discord, and by doing so keep yourself up to date on all my latest reviews and the like, and also join a great growing community. So let's see whether Off and On Again will make it up onto the Wall of Fame or the Wall of Shame, or maybe somewhere dibbling in the middle. Gameplay. And if you want to know the story about this one, go and read the blurb, because it's kind of not complicated but also complicated because of the way it actually explains everything. Suffice to say, the story doesn't really impact the actual game that much, but you do actually have this little element of this kind of like partner that joins you and talks to you constantly as you actually go along. I actually like this little, added addition to the game, because it kind of like gave you something to read, although the writing was kind of like really tiny, so I had to wear my glasses to read them. And this character will constantly mock you and the like as you actually go along, and it does actually get quite funny at times. And as you can see, the game's actually set out in sections, and I kind of like almost played this all in one go, and I think it'll probably take you a couple of hours to get through the whole thing. Probably if you're better at this than me, probably a bit less, but I can only go off what I experienced. The controls are pretty simple. There's a left, right, a jump button and a use button, and you can also like wall jump, as in left, right, up a wall until you get to, well, wherever you need to get to there. And basically you'll be using a combination of all of these put together eventually to get past each of these little like levels that actually come up, and they form themselves around you as you actually progress through the actual levels themselves. You'll be turning switches to activate other areas or deactivate other areas, or bridges, or things to like stop lasers getting at you, and all sorts of different things. In the end, the actual main point is to get from one point to the actual end point, which is kind of like a green teleporter that when you actually go and activate it, you'll be transported to the next level. I will say that this works pretty well, with the occasional unresponsiveness from the actual controls, but that's about it. I will also say that there's one striking thing which apparently is being fixed as we speak and as I record, which is a massive slowdown near the end of the actual game. This kind of does slow down and make it difficult to complete the game as is, but I will keep my eye on it, and I will be reporting down in the comments whether this has been fixed for the release, and only really bothered me near the end of the actual completion of the game. And my score at the end will be for a version that will be fixed, and if it's not fixed, then I will be stating down in the comments about whether you should be buying it right now or not. Now I will say it's a bit of a shame because there's no online leaderboards, and I think personally it would have been easy to actually implement them within the game, although I am understanding nowadays a lot of actual people and developers don't want to put them in because they're easily like breakable, and people tend to take advantage of that sort of thing. The levels in the actual game are quite diverse, and the actual enemies and things that happen to you, obstructions and things like that, get bigger and bigger and more as you actually work your way through the actual stages as well as the levels. There's always something changing here, there's always something different from place to place, and the whole thing's constantly evolving as you actually play through. I have to admit I wasn't really impressed from the actual start, but a couple of hours later and realizing I was on the last stages kind of shocked me a little. Now, under normal circumstances, I'd probably say that they've outpriced themselves on this game, but they have actually added a few different things here, like multiplayer. And so I've played a little of the actual multiplayers, and I'm actually quite impressed by what they've got. So they've got an invasion, which is basically Space Invaders for 2 players. You're basically shooting your lasers up in the air towards the actual Space Invaders, and yeah, it's basically Space Invaders but with these characters. And then one of my favourite modes is Break It, which is basically Brick Breaker but the same as Space Invaders. You're firing your like lasers up in the air, and like Space Invaders, you can also call your laser back, and you only get one laser to actually do it with, and it has multiple different like levels and cube structures to actually destroy. And then there's Deathmatch, which is self-explanatory. You go against other players and it's the one with the highest points at the end. And then there's elimination, yet again pretty self-explanatory. You have to eliminate your opponents and all that lot. And the deathmatch and elimination was okay. It's the Space Invaders and especially the Break It level which really impressed me. In fact, so much so that I think it's a shame in them two modes. I mean, obviously deathmatch and elimination is a multiplayer game, but I wish the invasion, I keep calling it Space Invaders, but it's invasion, don't copyright anything please, and the Break It level were single player as well. This could have been done so easily, and I probably would have played them two modes to death as well as the actual main, body of the game as well once I've completed it. And hopefully they might be able to patch this in so that I can go and play them two modes on my own, because I would love to do that. Graphically, as you can see, it's very basic, but I don't know, it's quite nice. I love the way it makes the levels up as you're actually going along. Some of the levels are just there and you can see it all. The camera would zoom into bits and zoom out here and there. But I like the fact that it's, drawing itself as you go along, and then you'll hit a switch and another bit will open up and then another bit. And yeah, when you think that it's just going to be a small level, it turns out to be a massive level. Audio wise, well, once again, all the bells and whistles are here, all the usual sounds that you would expect. I bet it's all drowned out from the start by the music, and yes, you can turn it down, but hey, why would you? The music's actually quite decent and quite beaty and quite weighty, and yeah, I quite enjoyed it, so I kept it at the level that it was and didn't really mind the fact that I couldn't hear the actual main game sounds that much. The good, well, it's got single player, and I like the fact they kind of thought about things and said, hey, I'm going to add some multiplayer levels as well. And the way the levels actually construct themselves as you actually play on as a whole is pretty cool as well. The bad, I think I really would have liked that single player to be put onto those two other modes as well. In fact, it's quite disappointed me, the fact that you can't. Surely in the developer's head they could have just gone, well, actually, let's give them this single player. They might not want it, but hey, some might, and it would be pretty easy to do, surely. The general sound's not really doing much for me either. The score, I've actually enjoyed my time here. I think it's a little bit overpriced for what it is still, even with those extra modes. I can't quite weigh it up properly, but I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I think depending on whether you complete it fast or slow, whether you can actually use those multiplayer sections, and or if they actually patch it so that those other two levels can be played, like the Break It and the Space Invaders bit can be played single player, I think that would probably elevate it to a 3+, but for now as it stands and for the price, a 3 out of 5 for definite. And as for my alternative, I'm going to be suggesting Wrecking Ball Adventure. Wink wink. Sorry, it's a joke because they've got eyes. But you'll be swinging, jumping, puzzling your way through this game. And yeah, I own it, and it's not a bad game, and it's 1 to 4 players as well. And I think you'll get a really good buzz out of it. And it's quite cheap as well. So what do you think? Are you going to be picking up Off and On again, or will you be leaving it? What are your thoughts about it? Leave them down in the comments, that's where they belong. Feel free to hit that like and subscribe button, you'll be helping the channel immensely, and also be kept up to date with all my videos and my reviews and the like. And I've got some extra content coming up soon as well. If you want to get further involved, feel free to, well, join us in our community Discord. Come for the chat, stay for the streaming, and I do quizzes and things like that there as well. Anything to keep the community entertained and us all to have fun, because life is better when we switch together.